Everybody be careful. You see that? That shit will get people killed. Put this over here. Drumdums evil background. You better keep your shit in line. Here we go. Final Destination stars Devon, Sawa, Larter, and is directed by James Wan. What's up, guys? Welcome to a special review. I actually did a poll and let you guys decide what my next review was. I presented 4 choices, and for a while there, Suspiria was like number 1, at least on Killer Flicks. But then all of a sudden, from behind, Final Destination just completely obliterated the competition. And Final Destination is a movie that I have been planning on reviewing for a couple years now. And for some reason, I think maybe it's because there's so many movies and they're so fun that I wanted to go through all of them. So maybe that's why I avoided the first one so long ago. And even quick shout out, Mariana Neal, she requested that I do this one a couple years ago. So I apologize, Mariana. But here we go, Final Destination. I am super pumped, and I'm even more pumped because I found my external mic. This thing has been missing for 2 months. I ended up buying a Rode mic just because I missed this sucker so much. And then the Rode mic just wasn't performing like I wanted it to. And if you look at my last couple reviews, you might think it sounds okay, but I'm just kind of OCD with these things. And this thing, nothing beats the sound of this lav. You got the Zoom H1, and then you got the Sony lav. And I guess there's a little tip for you. That's what I use for my audio setup. And this sounds the best, I think. You don't hear any background noise. But also, if you'll notice, look what I'm wearing. That is an official Drumdums t-shirt. Just to let you guys know, the Drumdums store is officially open. I have 2 t-shirt designs on there right now. I got one for this, Drumdums, and I got one for Killer Flicks. And really, I received a good push to get these t-shirt designs going. I had some requests for a Drumdums t-shirt because I do have another Drumdums t-shirt that I just made for myself. And I had quite a few requests saying, hey, I wouldn't mind a Drumdums t-shirt. Then recently, a lot of the members of Killer Flicks have been getting really excited. We have such a tight community, and we wanted to get a t-shirt out. So Woody Bowen designed the Drumdums logo, and he designed the Killer Flicks t-shirt, which is what you see now. If you want to purchase either one of these shirts, there is a link below in the info box. You can go down there and you can purchase a t-shirt of your choice. They come in all different sizes. But on to the review, Final Destination. Talk about a really interesting premise, Final Destination. First off, let's talk about the plot. Now, the beginning of this movie, there is this plane crash, and you got this kid Alex, played by Devon Sawa. He starts getting these visions, these premonitions that a plane crash is going to happen. He gets all these little clues here and there, and then all of a sudden we see the whole thing unfold, kind of in his dreamscape. And then he wakes up and realizes this plane is going to crash.
This fucking plane's gonna explode! Shut up, Brownie.
You're so not funny.
This is your idea of a joke. It's not a joke! It's not a joke!
Nobody else believes him, of course, but he just gets up and runs off the plane, screaming at the top of his lungs, this plane is gonna crash, I'm getting the hell out of here. And as you would guess, on a plane like that, everybody's gonna freak out. And a fight breaks out between some of the other students. And so then him and quite a few of the other students end up off the plane. And then, wouldn't you know it, the thing explodes. And so the rest of this movie is about Death. Death is the villain of this movie. And Death wants to collect what is owed. Alex has cheated Death's design. And so the rest of this movie is Death being really a slasher killer and picking off all the survivors of the plane crash. Now, a little backstory on this. There was an actual plane crash in 1986 that had a French class. This was kind of the inspiration for this movie. And I have to give credit to writers Glenn Morgan and James Wan for coming up with this great idea. In a climate where slasher movies really started getting stale, Final Destination was just a breath of fresh air. It's not really a premise that we had heard too often. I'm not going to say it was the first of its kind because I believe there was an X-Files episode that this is kind of based on. But you have great potential for a franchise with just this premise alone. Now, first off, let's get down to business. Let's talk about the deaths, because that's why people go to see Final Destination movies more than any other type of horror film. Final Destination knows where its bread and butter is, and that is in the deaths.
And you ain't taking me with you!
I think every movie in this franchise has their strong points. You know, they at least have one good death scene that really just knocks your socks off. And this one actually has quite a few, but I think out of all the movies, this one's probably the most emotional. But I'm not going to go through all the deaths, but I will talk about one in particular, and that is really the first one, Todd. And the reason I want to talk about this is because in today's climate of jump scares, it seems like 95% of a director's playbook is that, jump scares. In Final Destination, James Wan is a master of creating scares in different ways. And he does this in three ways: misdirection, patience, and payoff. Now, first let's talk about misdirection. If you look at that scene with Todd, there are quite a few things to let the viewer think that this is how he's gonna die. He's got the nose hair trimmers up his nose, you know, and the camera weighs on that for quite a while. And then you got the water coming on the floor. You got all these different things that come into play, and you know, so many different ways that Todd could die. Next thing is patience. The scene, for lack of a better term, drags on, but that's to our benefit. We never know how he's gonna die, and we never know when he's gonna die. And James Wan takes advantage of this. He lets the scene play out as long as it needs to, so by the time he does die, you can't even breathe. And the third thing is payoff. If you're gonna go through all this, you better have a good kill waiting for the viewer at the end of it. And Todd's death is a perfect example for a couple of reasons. One being, it's so realistic. I'd say out of all the deaths, it's probably the most frightening because it looks real. This doesn't look like, you know, a set gag or anything like that. When you look at him in that death scene, it looks like that wire is really wrapped around his neck super tight. And for James Wan to pull this off like he did, I think is amazing. Next up, the characters in this movie, I think, are probably the strongest out of the whole franchise. James Wan picks particular archetypes to play upon throughout the movie. You got Sean William Scott, who's kind of an idiot. You got Kerr Smith, who plays Carter, who is just a complete douchebag dick. I mean, he even has a line where he says, "I will never die." Who says that? And then you got Carrie, who I would say her death is probably the most shocking and quick out of the whole bunch. You know, you got a death like Todd's that can take a good 10 minutes, and then you got hers that takes like 2 seconds.
And you can just drop fucking dead.
Wow, what a payoff. I remember seeing that scene for the first time and completely just levitating off of my couch. I love deaths like that. That's another thing that's great about this, is it's so unpredictable. After her death, you never know how any of the other victims are going to get it. And then the final two characters, you got Clear and Alex. Clear, played by Ali Larter. She is that person on the plane that immediately she had a feeling about Alex. She was the only one that had a feeling about him, and she got off the plane on her own free will. The rest of them, they were either angry with Alex or they were dragged off the plane, but not her. She felt like something was about to happen. This plane was going to crash, and she got off the plane. And she really is the only one throughout the whole movie to actually thank Alex. And then finally, the last thing I want to talk about is that ending. Now, the ending of this movie wasn't the original ending. This is back in the early days when they were doing a lot of test screenings. Sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. In this case, it worked because you had a really somber ending initially where Alex was going to die. And the test screen audience, of course, they didn't like that. They loved the rest of the movie, but that one scene they hated. And so what they did was they brought the cast back, and you can tell that, Ali Larter, Kerr Smith, and Devon Sawa, they looked a little different in that last scene. And that was because they shot that a couple months later. But that scene really was the ultimate payoff. It made this movie almost like a perfect death movie. And Final Destination is one of those movies I constantly use as an example of, as soon as those credits roll, you are just completely full. You are elated, you are so excited, you can't believe the movie you just watched, and you really just had a blast. So in the end, guys, I am going to give Final Destination a Trapped on an Island. I think this movie deserves that. For the first movie of the bunch, it is the best. You had great characters, you had great kills, and all this stuff just came together for really like the perfect horror movie. And James Wan is a big reason why it all worked so well. So post below in the comments what you thought of Final Destination. Looking forward to hearing them. And if you're wondering if I'm going to do the rest of the series, hell yes, I'm going to do the rest of the series, because there's no way I could not talk about that opening scene of part 2, which I think is the best opening scene out of the whole franchise, really. Also, come over to Killer Flicks, where we talk horror all day and every day. If you like what I'm doing, hit that subscribe button. I'd really appreciate it. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. Have a great day, and Drumdum out.